This series presents the wisdom of the Avadhut Gita. Ramana Maharshi often quoted from the Avadhut Gita and was widely regarded to exemplify its teachings. Listen, reflect, and deeply meditate. Know yourself. This is Richard Clarke. This is the start of a series on the Avadhut Gita, a favorite of Ramana Maharshi. The Avadhut Gita is a scripture deeply associated with Advaita Vedanta. It's attributed to Dattatreya, the primordial sage of Hinduism. It looks to have been written about 900 to 1000 AD, heavily influenced by the writings of Adi Shankara. The Avadhut Gita is presented as a conversation between Dattatreya, the ancient teacher, and Shiva, the perfect yogi and source of consciousness of the universe. It presents profound teachings on the nature of reality, self-realization, and the path to liberation. The Avadhut Gita emphasizes non-duality and the illusory nature of the world. It declares that the ultimate truth is beyond all concepts and distinctions, beyond words and the mind. It encourages us to transcend all dualities and attachments in order to realize our true nature. In this text, Dattatreya describes the state of an Avadhut, one who has transcended all limitations and egoic identifications. The Avadhut is established in the direct experience of the absolute reality and remains unaffected by the play of the world. The scripture emphasizes the importance of self-realization and the realization of your own divinity. It encourages you to go beyond mere intellectual understanding and directly experience the truth through deep contemplation and meditation. The Avadhut Gita serves as a guide for spiritual seekers on the path of Advaita Vedanta, inspiring the discovery of your true nature and abidance in the eternal consciousness. Now we will have the verses. Verse 1, by the grace of God, the Brahmins above all men are inspired with the disposition to non-duality, the unity of the self with God, which relieves them of the great fear. Verse 2, how can I salute the self which is indestructible, which is all bliss, which in itself and by itself pervades everything, and which is inseparable from itself? Verse 3, I alone am, ever free from all taint. The world exists like a mirage within me. To whom shall I bow? Reader, do you exist? My comment, the first verse, by the grace of God, the Brahmins who are traditionally associated with the priestly an intellectual class in Hindu society, are said to possess a natural inclination towards non-duality, or the unity of the self with God. This disposition relieves them from the great fear, referring to the fear of separation or existential anxiety that arises from the perception of individuality and the illusion of a separate self. The idea here is that Brahmins, through their spiritual and intellectual pursuits, have a heightened awareness of the underlying unity of all existence, which brings them a sense of liberation and freedom from fear. What was so for the Brahmins is also true for you. Grace has brought you to these teachings. Your interest opens the door to the wisdom sought by the Brahmins. The second verse, the question posed, how can I salute the self, reflects the essence of Advaita Vedanta and the teachings of Ramana Maharshi. The self in Advaita Vedanta refers to the ultimate reality, the pure consciousness that is beyond all concepts and forms. It is indestructible and eternal, and is experienced as pure bliss. The question asks, how can one offer salutations or pay homage to the self, which is inherent in everything and inseparable from itself, from yourself? It highlights the paradoxical nature of the self, which is simultaneously the subject and object of experience and transcends all dualities. In Advaita Vedanta, the understanding is that the self is realized through direct experience rather through external actions such as prayer or salutations. You know the self since you are the self. Verse 3, the statement, I alone am, ever free from all taint. The world exists like a mirage within me. To whom shall I bow? Expresses the realization of the true nature of the self. It reflects the Advaitic understanding that the individual self is ultimately an illusion, and that the true self is the eternal, unchanging consciousness that pervades everything. The speaker recognizes their own existence as the sole reality and perceives the world as a mirage or a transient experience within their own consciousness. Thus, there is no eternal entity or higher authority to whom they feel the need to bow or offer respect. It signifies the realization of your own divinity and your inherent freedom from all limitations. The final question, reader, do you exist? Is a thought-provoking inquiry often used in Advaita Vedanta to invite introspection and direct self-inquiry. It challenges the conventional notion of individual existence and prompts the reader or the listener to examine their own sense of self, their own awareness and consciousness. It encourages you to inquire into the nature of your own being and the underlying reality that transcends individuality. It aims to shift your attention from the limited egoic self to the recognition of the eternal, non-dual consciousness that is the true essence of your being. It encourages you to examine existence itself. What does it mean to exist? What actually exists? And what is illusion or imagination? Do you exist? How do you know you exist? Is it from the senses? Do you exist when there are no senses? Is it from the mind? Do you know by thought? Do you exist when you're not thinking? You just know you exist directly, beyond senses and thought. Just notice that you exist and stay with it. This is deep meditation. This is deep inquiry. This is what is invited by the Avadhut Gita. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this Ramana Maharshi video, subscribe, like, and send me a comment.